This is 12th century Bundelkhand. Here, honor was a physical requirement for survival. The line between hero and corpse was drawn by a single insult. This environment produced the legendary Panchveer, the 5 warriors of Mahoba. At the center of this group were 2 brothers, Alha and Udal, whose names still define the region's folklore. Their status as warriors was rooted in a hidden trauma. While they were still children, King Jambe of Mandavgarh used deceit to corner and murder their fathers, stripping the boys of their lineage. To seal the humiliation, Jambe displayed the severed heads of their fathers in the branches of a massive banyan tree within his fortress, leaving them exposed to the elements as a permanent trophy. The royal court of Mahoba kept this from the brothers for years. They knew revealing this gruesome insult to young, hot-blooded warriors would trigger a disorganized suicidal attack on an enemy they weren't ready to face. That careful silence was shattered by their uncle, Mahil. During a court session, he openly taunted Udal, mocking him for living in luxury while his father's skull hung in an enemy's garden. The realization hit Udal with the force of a physical blow. His grief immediately hardened into a single, overwhelming objective. Mandavgarh had to burn. But as the brothers prepared to ride out, Queen Malhana intervened. She realized raw anger would get them killed, so she stood in their way, refusing to let them leave without a secondary set of orders. She forced them to swear an oath of Dharma, visualized here as 3 non-negotiable pillars. They could never strike an unarmed opponent, never harm a woman or the elderly, and never pursue a fleeing enemy. These rules stripped away the brothers' ability to act on impulse. Every step toward the enemy's gate now required them to weigh their desire for revenge against the strict limits of their word. The logistical challenge was immense. Mandavgarh was a marvel of defensive engineering, surrounded by deep trenches and thick iron-reinforced walls that made a standard siege a death sentence. The brothers opted for a covert approach. They traded their armor for the robes of wandering monks, hiding their blades in their gear to talk their way past the outer sentries. They reached the inner palace before their luck ran out. Princess Sena recognized Udal and immediately attacked, forcing the monk to defend himself in the middle of the royal court. Udal was a superior combatant, but his oath meant he couldn't touch her. He simply deflected and parried her strikes, refusing to draw blood, until she eventually ran out of energy and lowered her sword. The princess was stunned. She had never seen a warrior show that level of restraint while being actively hunted. Realizing her father's reign was built on the very deceit Udal refused to use, she switched sides. This map shows the fortress's primary defense, walls designed to funnel invaders into kill zones. But the princess knew a path ignoring these structures. She led them to a secret tunnel starting miles away in the Baburi forest, tunneling directly into the palace's heart. Because Udal prioritized his oath over an easy victory against the princess, he secured a path into the city that bypassed the fortress's physical strength entirely. The Mahoba army moved through that tunnel under the cover of darkness. By the time the sun rose, a full-scale invasion was already unfolding inside the city walls. This is the Panchvyuha, a 5-part formation used to manage chaos. Alha took the center, Deba commanded the left flank, and Malkhan secured the rear. These flanks moved in synchronization, systematically compressing Mandavgarh defenders into the center of the city. The defenders tried to break the momentum with dishonorable tactics, throwing blinding dust and lie into the eyes of the Mahoba frontline to create an opening. They even brought in a sorceress, Saho Jogan, who used psychological tactics and disorientation to make the Mahoba soldiers believe they were being attacked by supernatural forces. Rather than retreating, the Mahoba commanders identified her as a high-value target and moved to neutralize her directly, breaking the illusion and regaining control of the field. The Mahoba army survived this chaotic environment because their shared oath acted as a stabilizing force. They didn't break formation because their discipline was rooted in a moral code, not just a paycheck. With his army collapsing, King Jambe attempted a final escape. He mounted a heavily armored war elephant, hoping its sheer mass would allow him to trample his way out of the fortress. Seeing the king's Lee, Udal intercepted him. At full gallop, he launched off his horse's back, clearing the elephant's shoulder in a single desperate leap. Udal reached the king's carriage and ended the conflict with a single strike. By removing the head of the Mandavgarh monarchy, he effectively neutralized the remaining resistance. The brothers reclaimed their father's skulls from the banyan tree and gave them a proper burial. They returned to Mahoba as victors, completely dismantling all the lies their uncle had tried to use to them. The legend of Alha and Udal has persisted for nearly 1,000 years. It serves as a study in how a moral code can become a tactical advantage, showing the most effective way to dismantle an enemy is to refuse to become like them.